Love this. Hey, everybody. Can you hear us? Can everybody hear us? I asked because that wasn't always the case. We've been speaking for like 5, 6 years now, but people have heard us only since March, so funny thing. So, it's been a wild ride. It's been a bit of a mind trip since March, since the big Beeple incident, as we like to refer to it. But it has also been a period of a lot of introspection, because not only does it give you a massive stage or a voice like it has today, it also infuses you with a scary sense of responsibility. So you got to think really hard about what you're doing. It's not just a bunch of us experimenting or fooling around on the Ethernet. So with that, I think we'll jump right into it. This was supposed to be an exclusive talk by Metacoin, which would have been way more fun, but I wanted to mix things up a little bit and make this a conversation. And I might pass this on to you sometime in the middle, so feel free to shoot some questions right in the middle. All right? So the first thing I wanted to ask, since we've got the big Beeple incident out of the way, is how you look at crypto as such, because you were in this space since 2013. I remember the first time we met when you discovered Bitcoin for the first time in 2013, and very generously, he told me all about it, everything he'd learned about Bitcoin, and it flew right over my head. So my story has been a series of missed opportunities in one sense, but he has approached crypto with a socio-political awareness that I am in awe of to this day. So MK, first question, how do you approach crypto and the NFT space within it?
Yeah, I think crypto needs NFTs more than NFT needing crypto, right? As a movement, crypto, I've been connected with the movement because of its social and political angle and what it means to the world, right? And it's always been my thesis that it's more than crypto being interesting for the Americans, for the Europeans. I think crypto is definitely for the rest of the world, because it's not like it's like freedom of speech and property rights. All these things are a given here, but it's not in most of the world, right? So crypto is definitely for everyone. And the problem is that, but even though we think crypto is fair, it's distributed, we overuse this term of fairness, right? Fairness in everything. Like Bitcoin is fair because you could mine it, right? Like you just needed to know, like you needed to know English, you needed to know technology, you needed to be able to code a little bit, you needed to know how to run at least a command on command prompt, right? And all these things, and you should have been closer to people who knew about Bitcoin in 2009, right? And
dangerous territory.
Yeah, so that does not happen every day, right? And that's where I think NFTs are very important, because it's not just how we look at crypto, and it's not just a evolution of some art being put on the blockchain. What NFT does to people is that it allows anyone, right, like with basic skill, to be able to convert their dreams into a currency, right? And from all over the world. And so I think that power is what is important, and that is what we are bringing in so many people now into this movement. And I think that's something very profound about NFTs.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm one of the poster children of that particular phenomenon, right? Like I said, I knew about Bitcoin in 2013, but I could not participate in it because I'm not a coder, not a very smart person. But the NFT space, I found my groove instantly, right? A lot of people, creatives, communicators, artists, found a space or found a way to participate in the crypto movement. And like he said, the ability and the power to convert your dreams into a currency, which is very powerful. And I found that within the NFT space. And I think what Metacoven also mentioned is the idea of distributing value that's where the fairness lies, and I think NFTs have the power to do that. Before we move on, a couple of earlier slides, which I wanted to dwell on, have been massive influences on us.
Yeah. So Antonio Gramsci is a very important philosopher for me. I read a lot of Antonio Gramsci. Um, I- like philosopher, these philosopher come from a very different area, right? Like different area meaning they come from a decolonial angle, right? And they think about the world. For example, Antonio Gramsci is the person who defined what cultural hegemony was, or at least articulated it into definition. And decoloniality is a very interesting term in the context of modernity because Anthony Gramsci and following him, Walter Mignolo, right? Like if you could go to the next slide. Now, two of these talks are very interesting when it comes to thinking about what the world we live in today is, right? And a colonial world is what we are living in, and that's what we called modern, right? And Walter Mignolo and people like artists like Alfredo Jar, like fight for a different term, and they say we are not living in a modern world, we are living in a colonial world, and to get past it, we need to have a decolonial mindset, right? And that is not easy because it is about taste and it is about understanding what the cultural hegemony of our time is and being able to see value in things we usually don't, right? Like, so it's like, what do we value the most? And if I suddenly bring you something from a, like a remote village in, say, Indonesia, you'll be like, who cares about that, right? But that's where the world has to go, because if we have to have everyone here, right? It cannot be a world of a few, right? And this decolonial lens is very important.
A tiny illustration of what the idea of decoloniality means. I think Walter Mignolo said, unless your art or your culture can be expressed in one of 5 or 6 European languages, it is not considered art. It's not considered culture anymore. And the idea of decoloniality is to break that mold of how the world looks at culture, the world looks at art, the world looks at value. And that's where the idea of the metaverse, of crypto, of NFTs start to blossom. Moving on just a little bit. Okay, mix things up. A quick picture book version of the metaverse story so far. It's not very long, as you know, as an idea, as an entity, metaverse is less than a year old. I think we coined it in October of 2020. But Metakovan has been collecting NFTs since 2017. And through a series of these images, I wanted to sort of pick his brains on why he did some of the things that he did, culminating in why he bought the $69 million Beeple piece. Let's begin. Decentraland. This was 2017, right?
It's cool.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
All of those red dots and that red patch, that's the largest single estate in Decentraland.
Actually, when like Decentraland was still new, it is important to look at this because for the single reason that like you need to have a thesis before you do something, and that thesis might work out or not, but it gives the motivation for you to keep going with it, right? And so for me, definitely a decolonial angle was what brought me into this, into believing in something like Decentraland, because I do believe that there should be a space for everyone where they can express themselves, right? And that space, I have no idea where all the world's attention is going to gather in the future, but I do believe that if there are spaces like that on the internet, and that space can be decentralized. So it's like saying, what if Netflix is decentralized, right? And people get to vote to decide what the banner on the Netflix should be. So that'll be a great moment, right? So those kind of things I think is going to happen. and that's where this started, right? Like we still have a lot to build. So
Yeah.
total.
That's true. One of the things he told me when describing the thought process behind Decentraland is a lot of people ask us as well, why do you buy virtual land? It's virtually infinite, right? You can create as much land as you want, space. I mean, it's the same case with websites as well. There are hundreds of millions of websites, but it's still those 4 or 5 websites that define your day, right? That top banner on Netflix, maybe a couple of other streaming services, a news site, etc., and your social networks. All of that focus, all of that attention will shift into these virtual, more immersive spaces, experiences. And the more decentralized it is, the more power you have over those spaces. So I thought that was awesome.
And yeah, the triple one. This came in 2019 when there was no actual official collectible things on NFTs, and no one was looking at it like that. And when I looked at something like like F1, there's an official NFT that's being launched. I really thought this is going to be interesting, right? And it's definitely something I really value a lot personally. And that I think that was the 2019 that year's highest sold NFT.
Yeah, an
Right.
exorbitant sum of $111,000.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
So 2019, the most sold NFT was $111,000. Yeah,
that was this.
something to say.
Yeah.
And this specific piece from Async Art, First Supper, I still remember this I bought just after the day I left NFT NYC, and I think that's where the power of this conference NFT NYC is also there, where I would not have known Async Art if I didn't come to the conference. But this is the image that made me realize how important like art was to the things we are doing. Because until if you look at whatever I bought until First Supper, it was never actually art. I was thinking, okay, if I have land, I can, I was thinking like, oh, there's a new suburb, why don't I buy land and make money, right? And when I was looking at Triple One, I was like, okay, someone else is going to want this, right? But First Supper, I really, like connected with the art piece because it had so many people. It had, I think, 16 artists, right? 16 or 17?
13 artists.
13 artists, and each one had given more than one layer to the art, and it was an image that can change over time, right? Like, so the layers can change, and the layers are owned by different people. So something like this, I think, is a very interesting way to use crypto and art together, right? So something that blew my mind, and yeah, so I was very happy I could buy this, and last year there was not too much competition, so it was something easy when I bought it.
Yeah, it's beautiful because First Supper is also my portal into the NFT space. Uh, we've done a lot of work in the DeFi space for a while, and I was convinced nothing else in the world of crypto mattered all that much. But this was a massive culture shock to me because it was art that I could relate to, that I could enjoy, and more importantly, that I could reach out and access so easily. I mean, the artists are all on Twitter. I could DM them and say hi. So this was my portal into the world of NFTs, and I never looked back.
And after First Supper, I think for a while, Tubadur started collecting all the art. And what I really...
You don't sound very happy about it.
So I was like, okay, I didn't... I just think you had, a better taste when it came to, understanding why we should buy art. I would have been a little more, just commercial, and not have thought too much about it. But when we started working on thinking about Beeple and B20, why this project became very interesting to me was because at that point I was thinking, if there's going to be a metaverse, we need more job descriptions, right? There's an artist, there's a collector, and then what? There's nothing happening, right? Like someone, there should be architects who build stuff, like people who can gamify these things. All these things need to happen, and it has to, like as a like a ripple effect, get into people's consciousness and become real things, right? And so B20 was an amazing experience for me, because by October, when Beeple was, we knew that Beeple was part of the NFT industry. Like I knew so many digital artists who were like, excited and so excited. And the only thing I really got drawn to Beeple was his consistency, right? And that consistency, like has shown over time, right? Like definitely. But when I saw these images, I was thinking, okay, let's make a story out of this. Let's create something where it's going to be interesting, right? One second, I have to figure it out.
Hello.
Hi.
There's zeros on that thing there.
Was
I'm
it?
just hanging out. Oh, that little clock right there with the zeros on it.
Yeah. Was it?
We thought it was
We were heard it
long.
was a 1 hour panel.
Yeah, we'd be happy to finish.
You guys are
Thought it
about
was
done.
yeah.
You guys can wrap it up. It's cool. We love you.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
audience loves you. We got another group, another panel coming behind. So
Okay, cool.
Rock on.
Maybe give us 5 minutes then, okay?
maybe 3.
Okay.
Oh, that's generous. All right.
Okay, 2. 1. 1 minute. You get a half a minute. Go, guys.
Okay, it's okay. Don't worry.
I don't think they'd be interested in that, so probably not.
Anyways.
All the rest.
Anyways.
Grab that
All right, this is
Happens.
out, so we're going to grab the hook and pull them off.
So with that culmination, I think, like the everydays happened, and I'm so happy we were in the middle of this, and I almost feel lucky to have been able to, be able to get that moment and keep it with us, right? And because now it's been an explosion of NFTs. Today, it's very hard for collectors to, go choose NFTs and do things, and I see this with a lot of people. But I feel like that moment will always remain special to me, and yeah, it's still very much worth it, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's a whole bunch of stuff that we're going to do, but I don't think anybody's interested in that right now, so I think we'll just call it a day. But that's all right. No, there will be other stages. There'll be many stages. If there's one thing we've discovered, it's that we're here to stay. We are here for the long haul, because we're in love with this space, quite honestly. We're in love with how art has become a catalyst, and artists have started to drive the purpose of our existence. And we'd love to talk to you about it more. There will be other stages, and we will continue to talk about this a lot more. But more importantly, what we've had a lot of fun doing, and we've discovered over the last 6 or 7 months of not talking post the Beeple thing, is that working on a lot of these things have become an incredibly heady and rewarding experience. And I think you'll be able to see a lot of our work and those amazing collaborations with artists who we would have otherwise never discovered, and creators sort of coming to the fore in the months to come. So thanks all of you, and Metakovan, as ever.
Thank you, guys.
With you.
Thank you.